Kung Fu Panda released in 2008 and it became a cult classic. I remember seeing that movie on an airplane and I absolutely loved it. The characters were iconic and it was funny, it was emotional, and overall it was a well done movie. Since then we've had two more follow-ups, one in 2011 that was a worthy follow-up and loved by crowds again, and another in 2016 which was also fantastic. As a result, Kung Fu Panda is one of the best animated trilogies we've had so far and one of the best trilogies in general. So that got me thinking, I really like this franchise and I wish there was another movie to keep the magic going. So what are some ideas that can be explored in Kung Fu Panda 4? I just want to clarify that the fourth part is not yet confirmed, nor is it being worked on or being produced to my knowledge at least. Starting off with something new I'd like to see would be a new fighting style. I've never taken any martial arts classes, so I don't know how accurate the movie is to the fighting style Kung Fu. But if it is, then I'd like the movie to explore another fighting style. Perhaps we can see a villain that knows karate very well go up against Po's Kung Fu, or something like Taekwondo or Jiu-Jitsu be introduced into the franchise. While there's nothing wrong with Kung Fu as it is in the movie, and quite honestly, I don't have any complaints with how the characters fight each other, I think something brand new could be very interesting to watch. If I know the movie correctly, then all three movies so far have focused on Kung Fu. I know the second one, the main villain sort of had his own weapon that he was building, and the third one sort of leaned toward the supernatural side. But I would love to see another movie come back to the roots and just have another fighting style one-on-one with Po again. Now, something that I didn't really notice until doing research for this video is the fact that the first two Kung Fu Panda movies were kind of grounded. There wasn't any supernatural event or anything of mystical powers that was being used up until Kung Fu Panda 3, where the producers wanted the villain to have some sort of an extra power and bring in a whole new dimension to the movie. And so that got me thinking that ideally for the fourth part, maybe we could see them lean in more towards that. Towards the end of Kung Fu Panda 3, where Po is fighting the villain Kai, we see a glimpse of Po finally realizing his powers and getting help from the people of the village from the outside to transform into the Dragon Warrior. In this scene, we see a literal dragon encompassing Po. In fact, the whole point of the movie is to differentiate itself from the previous two was to have a villain that was supernatural. As such, a fourth film can go deeper into that, if Po transformed into a literal dragon, figuratively, and I guess somewhat literally, how is that going to change his fighting style? How much more powerful is he? Is he the only one that's being transformed? Perhaps we can see another aspect of the movie being focused on the Furious 5 and their transformations. And I think that would be really interesting to watch. I think even from a visual aspect, we could be in for a treat if they decide to focus on that. Now, what really makes Kung Fu Panda 3 are in fact the villains. And I have to say that the first two movies had really strong villains. Kung Fu Panda 3, I thought the villain was okay. It sounds nitpicky, but I do wish that they had picked a different animal to represent the villain. Because in the first one we saw a tiger, and in the second one we saw a peacock. And if I remember correctly, we might have seen an animal similar to the villain Kung Fu Panda 3 based on the TV show, and so when I saw that I wasn't really excited, nor did I feel that he was as intimidating as it could have been. But that being said, in all three movies we saw three different new villains being introduced to us, and even if we don't count the first one because that's setting up the scene, both Kung Fu Panda 2 and 3 introduced someone that we haven't seen before. So this time, perhaps for the fourth movie, we can focus on a villain that we already know of, such as the return of Tai Lang. Perhaps have a villain from one of the other three movies come back, which I think is doubtful, unless we're talking about Shen, but even then, I think it'd be disrespectful to the movie itself from which they're referencing from. I think it's best to keep those villains dead, but you do have the Furious 5 and Shifu, so it could be really interesting where you have a movie that's centered around Po versus the Furious 5 where something has gone wrong or there's a rift between the two of them, and now we see Po taking on all of Furious 5. Or we could even have Shifu be transformed, something goes wrong, he's brainwashed, or something malicious has taken over him and now the Furious 5 have to team up with Po to take down Shifu before he does damage. And I think that could be really interesting because by the time the fourth movie comes out, we don't really need more villains. We've had our iconic villains. But I do want a greater focus on the other already introduced characters, such as Shifu, Po, his two dads, people from the village and whatnot. And I think turning them into the main antagonist could be interesting to watch. Now, I'm gonna give an honorable mention to the things that I really don't want this movie to do, which is to, 1, introduce a new family member. The whole point of Kung Fu Panda 3 was to reunite Po with his old family and the people where he came from, and for them to do it again would just be lazy. I also don't want to see the trope of a forgotten brother or an evil twin for any of the characters. I feel like that's been overdone and it's not that interesting. Again, I feel like all the characters that Po is supposed to be friends with has been introduced, and if you're waiting till the 4th movie to introduce even more family members or brothers and sisters of other characters, that wouldn't come across right to me. That being said, let me know what you guys think should happen to Kung Fu Panda 4. Some of you guys may say that the movie doesn't need a sequel, and you're absolutely right, while some of you guys may be on board for the idea. I know we did have a TV show, and quite honestly, I really liked it when I used to watch it as a child. I don't know if I would like it again, but I do hope that we see a 4th movie, because honestly, I love the characters. And who knows, they could probably explore different ideas. Maybe Po doesn't stay in China anymore. Maybe it's a Madagascar 3 situation where now all the characters are moving around, going to different parts of the world, different countries, to meet and see and learn from new people. Who knows, the possibilities are endless. But until then, I'll see you guys next time.